Chris
Right.
Allchin.
Fire
Welcome,
away.
bro.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Welcome back to the hood, man.
Back in the Penrith.
Where I want to start is I seen a quote, or I think you mentioned it in a podcast where you said, I knew who I never wanted to be, but not yet who I wanted to become. I want to ask you this now. Do you know who you want to become?
Yeah.
Who is that?
I've got a vision to have a massive impact on helping people become the best version of themselves. Now, I use business as a facility to do that, but that might not be the same for everybody. But for me, there's a 10.0 version of me that I see in my head, and I'm not there yet, but he exists in a space where it's all business, but it's also family, and it's also having an impact on younger people to not make poor choices like I did. Maybe some young entrepreneurs, maybe I can steer some youth in the direction of becoming business owners. That's the dream I have for myself now.
And I would assume that purpose stems from your upbringing and not making the right choices, which led to, a 5-year and 3 months stint in prison.
Yeah, it certainly plays a part. Now, I can't sit here and say I had some terrible upbringing. Some people have, drug addict parents, or they come from a really rough home. I didn't. We were by no means wealthy, but I had a good family home. So mine was a case of greed, really.
Okay.
But environments too. I grew up in the western suburbs, and I, over time, became surrounded by bikies and people that played in the criminal world. And it's not something that happens overnight.
Yep.
It creeps up on you. You start off your early 20s and someone says, we're going to a party, and you try a bit of drugs. Next thing you know, you realize you can buy some more drugs and save yourself the cost. And it starts off something small like that. And then over the years, it escalates and you don't notice it. But if I was to blink and then look at how things became, suddenly, you've got access to, pretty high profile criminals. You're involved in things you shouldn't be. You've got mates that have been murdered, mates doing life in prison. And you start to believe that's actually normal. It's not until you remove yourself from it, which I have now, and it wasn't normal by any means.
Yeah. Growing up in Western Sydney myself, I grew up in Plumpton.
Okay.
So I grew up there, and a lot of the stuff that you mentioned is normal.
Yeah.
And you go to school. I went to Plumpton High School. There's fights, everything like that. And you just go, okay, cool. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And you just get on with life. But until you take yourself out of it like you have, and even me going into business and I was never really involved in crime, but still you're around it. It's around. And I remember what comes to my mind now, going to a house party when I was like 16, and I think it was in Tregear or something like that. And there's this house and it's just all holes and shit in the walls, like the main walls of the house, and there's holes and stuff everywhere. I'm like, to me, it baffled me, but it's like, in a way, it was kind of normal because I grew up in a very loving household like yourself, and my parents had business, and, we had everything that we needed as kids. But then just down the road, you got all that.
Yeah.
And it's like that weird dynamic of you're in a great upbringing, but then just down the road, you got houses with holes and there's drugs and there's murders and drugs, all that kind of stuff.
So it desensitizes you to
yeah,
it.
you get normal. Like,
Yeah.
it's normalized.
That's right. And so your environment, I say this all the time, if I had somebody come to me now and they said, how do I, and I've had this, right? How do I break out of the pattern I'm in? I'd say, look, in this situation, it was someone that was involved in selling drugs, and they asked me, how did I get away from it? I said, go into your phone right now, and anyone you've ever done drugs with, sold drugs with, had anything to do with drugs, delete them out of your phone. I would then go as far as changing locations of where you live, and then it being intentional about finding new friends. Now, prison, for all it's bad, gives some great things because you are away from your circle for so long. I was away from that circle for 5 years, and I had a lot of time to think and reflect and reinvent myself. So when you asked me the question, who I didn't want to be again, I knew that meant not being around those sort of people. And so prison had already done that, because when you're in prison, those people don't visit you. Generally not.
But the thing is, you're still surrounded by criminals and those type of people, though.
Well, that's a choice while you're in there too. So I chose to, sure, I still communicated with a lot of them, but you can still choose your circle in prison.
Yep.
So you'll notice in prison that there is really two types of people. There's the guys that take the drugs and take the sleeping tablets. They sleep all day. They get on drugs overnight. There's that type. And then the other type is the guy that starts to build a routine. He trains constantly. He reads, and he's realizing that he's got this time. You don't want to get out a worse version of yourself when you came in. You want to be a better version. You don't know what that version looks like yet, but just daily habits, making your bed, little things, reading some books, going to the gym.
So is there a lot of people like that in prison?
There's less people like that. There's more drug addicts.
Yeah.
But there are people that are trying to improve
Yep.
themselves.
It's just about finding those people.
The trick is when you get out, because you have the best intentions. But some people fall to their old habits, and it's about your environment, because when you get out, what's the first thing you default to? Everyone wants to call you up. How you doing?
Yep.
And there was a glaring thing that I noticed when I was having conversations with people when I got out of prison. So they would call you up and that, how are things and how was prison? They're always interested about prison. But the conversation I was having with people was the exact same conversation that I had 5 years ago. It was like I was never gone. They're still complaining about their partners, their business, their kids, their life. Nothing had changed. And it just felt like white noise. I almost was listening to it, but I almost like I didn't want to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Nothing had changed. And I thought to myself, I've been physically in prison, but you're in a metaphoric prison for yourself. You haven't changed a damn thing in your life. And so I had bars around me. What's your excuse?
I was just about to bring that up around the metaphoric prison, right? Like you literally went to prison, but there's so many people now, their mind is their prison.
Correct.
And they're so scared to look at themselves in the mirror and actually have the hard conversations of, fuck, who am I for starters? Who do I want to be and where do I want to go? And you were forced to do that, yet we have the freedom every day to do that, but we don't.
We don't by default. We don't do it ourselves. We usually respond to pain. And people say to me, what made you change in prison? It was pain. And it didn't happen quickly. I was arrested in 2015. I was locked up for about 3 months. Then I got bail. And I fought really hard to get bail because I had a show cause on there because it was a large amount of drugs. So bail wasn't easy. I think I spent $70,000 to get bail, but I got it. And then I was on these strict conditions. And I would say that in that time on bail, I became the worst version of myself ever. I didn't start to improve in that time. I got worse. I wasn't selling more drugs, but I was taking more drugs. I wasn't a great version of myself at all. So that was nearly 3 years waiting for a trial date. Then I got the trial date, and that went for about 3 weeks. And I was still cocky. You can be confident, but let's not be cocky. Because I was like, I'll beat this. I'll pay this expensive barrister, which I think I spent 300 grand on, and I'll beat the charge. I was telling everybody, don't even worry about the trial. I'll beat it. I don't know if I believed that deep down, but that's what I was telling everybody. And we're 3 weeks into the trial, and my barrister, he says to me, we're going to beat this. I'm like, yeah, sure. And I sat in that dock, cocky as, in my fancy suit. And when they said guilty, it was almost like, what do you mean? You've said it wrong. Read it again. And I walked in and out of that courtroom for 3 weeks because I was a free man technically at that point. But the moment they say guilty, security guards come from everywhere. You don't even know where they were. And your partner's crying and they handcuff you. They take your watches off and you can't even say goodbye to your partner. And you're down in the docks. And that's a tough time, let me tell you. But I went through that. Then I don't know my sentence at that point. I just know that I've been found guilty. But I'm telling everybody, don't worry, I'll beat the appeal. So I still haven't let go of the idea that I was guilty. I was still claiming to be innocent. And I wasn't. But I was claiming to be innocent, still fighting it, still denying it. Because if I give you some context, my life up to that point, I had controlled a lot of things and a lot of people around me.
Yep.
I played in the criminal world. Yes. I had a lot of business. So I had a lot of people that worked for me in both sides. And so I was used to getting what I want. I was used to controlling an outcome. I was used to demanding what I wanted. And so I thought I could control this as well, but I couldn't. So I couldn't control the trial with a good barrister, but I still believed I could control the outcome. So my ego continued, my cockiness continued, and off I went to prison, telling everybody I'll beat the appeals. Now, the appeal process is a long process. It would be the next 18 months where I was trying to appeal and I would fail and I'd go to another level. I refused to give up. until there was nothing left to fight because I'd exhausted all the avenues. And I could honestly say that I didn't start to become a better version of myself until I just accepted that it was my fault. Because for those 18 months, I was still blaming a lot of people. This person set me up. And it's true that I was set up by a mate, but he didn't force me to be there. Yeah. I still chose to be there. It was on my terms. The fact that he facilitated the police to be filming it, that's kind of irrelevant because it was still my choice to be there. But 18 months in, failed all the appeals. Lisa got sick, and I've talked about this a few times now. Lisa got sick from the stress, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Visiting a prison all the time. And, she's a real straighty 180. This girl doesn't, she won't cross the road without the little green man, I don't know how she ended up with a heavily tattooed, shaved-head man that's been to prison, but, she did. So her visiting the prison was a lot for her. She got unwell. And there was a point there, particularly when I failed the appeals and I knew I was going to do the full term, that we didn't know if she was going to be able to do it. And so that was heavy. My kids, my older kids, they weren't really talking to me. They were sort of young then. Phoenix was, what was Phoenix? Maybe 8. Paige was maybe 16, thereabouts. So pretty crucial ages.
Yeah.
And I wasn't communicating with them much, trying to, but not really able to. They were angry, particularly my daughter, the older one. She was angry at me. She tells me now how angry she was, and that's understandable. So you've got to wear that. And that was rock bottom for me, for sure. One of my grandmothers passed away 3 months in. The other one passed away maybe a year in. And I remember, I call it the polished metal mirror moment, because in prison you don't have actual mirrors. You've got polished metal mirror. And I remember the floor had just been painted. I was at Goulburn Prison. It's just been painted grey. I just remember the details, yeah. And I remember screaming like, fuck. I worked myself up that much. And I said to myself, you're going to make yourself sick if you keep stressing like this. And I looked in the mirror and I'm like, you've got to change. And I really did make intention to change from that point. I stopped blaming and I just accepted that it was my fault. That was a big burden off my shoulders. Just accepting it. Like, you fucking did this yourself, mate. Yeah. You weren't meant to beat it. Because you can sit there and you can try and dissect the trial and say, I could have done this and maybe I'd done this, I could have beat it. And probably that's true. I probably could have with a different strategy, but I wasn't meant to beat it. I say the universe, but now I say God, because I've shifted a little bit there, wanted me to be found guilty. It had to happen. It was for me, not to me.
Yes.
It just took a while to realize. And so then I would start reading. I would start training more. Practicing gratitude. These sounds like corny things, but they're really powerful, because even in prison you can be grateful for so many things. You might get a fresh pair of thongs, you might get a clean shower occasionally, some hot water, little things that we have available to us every single day become luxuries.
I heard the food isn't too good in there though.
The food is no stars.
I had another guest on the podcast, I don't know if you heard of him, Andrew Hamilton.
I haven't, no.
He's a comedian now, and he used to do ratings on all the prison food because he went to jail for distributing magic mushrooms.
Okay.
Before they became legal. Poor cunt.
Unlucky.
Yes. And I love that you speak into God and the direction you're going in your faith, and everything happens for a reason. And that pivotal shift, in a way, I would kind of describe it as like an ego death for you, because you were full of ego, like, I'm going to beat everything, and then blaming everyone else too, like nothing's your fault, right?
Correct.
And then that moment where you're looking yourself in the mirror like, fuck.
It's all my fault.
Yeah, it's all my fault. I need to make change. Like, that's the moment, like, your ego just drops away, and you have to make change. You've got to take action on your life. And was it through prison that you found your faith, or was it after?
I think after.
Okay.
I've always referred to the universe.
Yes.
But I did spend a large amount of time in prison with Muslims, with Christians, and I learned a lot about faith through them, but I didn't shift while I was in there. I found it educational, and I found it amazing that they are so similar. But I still hadn't attached myself to a particular religion. And I'm not sure I still have isolated myself as being a believer in one or the other. I just know I have my version of faith. I believe there is a God.
Yes.
I believe there is something playing a force, whether it's energetic or what. I think I rejected the notion that there's some guy in the sky, deciding everything that happens to us.
I think that was that control piece, right? You want to have control over
yeah,
everything.
like you feel like you're not controlling anything yourself. Maybe you're right, but too many things have happened to me that have turned out that have started off to be the worst thing possible and turned out to be the best thing possible. For me to deny that there's not something else at play, it'd be naive to think that.
I agree. It's like we're humans, right? But like surely there's something higher up.
There's something. And, I think we have our interpretations of it, and that's how we've got all these different religions. I don't get caught up in that. I'm happy to sit there and have a conversation with a Muslim, a Christian.
Yeah.
I actually don't care. But I think the structure of faith is really helpful. I talked earlier about becoming the best version of yourself, the 10.0 version of yourself. If you look at religion, it certainly helps you do that.
Yes.
It gives you some guidelines. Some guidelines. I think somebody asked me the other day what made me shift my thought process around religion or just, believing. A few reasons, but one is this. I looked around at a lot of the people that call themselves atheists, which was myself, and how we behave, how I used to behave. And I think they are my people. The atheists are my people, technically. And then I look at how a lot of the people of faith, not all, but how people of faith, people of true faith, are behaving, and they're behaving better. I'm like, well, I talk about environments and being part of the right community, the right people. I'd prefer to be part of that community because they're holding themselves accountable. They're trying to be better. We're not perfect. We still make mistakes. Just because you believe doesn't make you this perfect human. But you start to have some guidelines on what is right, what is wrong.
Yeah,
I still fuck up. Don't get me wrong.
We're human, right?
Yeah.
And just like yourself, like I haven't pigeonholed myself to any particular religion, and it's still something that like I'm seeking the answers to. And I think having conversations like with Muslims, with different religions, there's pieces that you can pull from all of it. And like I wear my cross, but I'm not Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power, but I don't pigeon myself to a religion because in my opinion, I think religion gets messy because people get involved in it.
Yeah, I think humans complicate it. Absolutely. And I reject the fact that any God would want these religions to fight with each other over basic principles on how to be a good human. And if you look at how they construct their ideal human, they are so similar.
Yes.
They're not too different. There's just arguments around history and how it happened and particular prophets, and I'm no expert in this, but that's what I got out of that we're arguing over some details, but the end goal is kind of the same. We all want to be this version of a great person. We're fighting over who said what.
Yeah.
That's just for me, and I don't want to be offensive to anybody of faith in a particular area, but that's where I'm at with my journey of faith. Yeah.
And I think if you can have that faith and draw strength from it, that it allows you to really work on being that best version of yourself. Believe in what you want. Don't push it on other people, of course, but be the best version of yourself.
So energetically, I also believe in frequencies.
Yes.
And it does overlap with religion. So this is what led me to religion. I'm talking about the universe and I'm talking about frequencies. And I put it all together and it's very similar to what might be taught in scripture. And so I still talk about frequencies a lot, and I still talk about energy, and I still talk about a thing I call above the line, below the line. We have this in the house where if we're watching a TV show, unless by accident I say something, I make a comment about, I don't know, someone's appearance. My partner will go, was that below the line? I'm like, yeah, all right, you got me. And I do the same to her. So we try and keep each other accountable so we're not playing in that low frequency judgment space.
Yep.
We're trying to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Yeah, I would say, would you say you're more spiritual?
Yeah.
Have you, just because it comes to mind, have you dabbled in the spiritual world in terms of like magic mushrooms, psychedelics?
No, I haven't. I hear it's a blast, but I'll try and steer away from it. No more drugs for me.
No more drugs. Yeah, there's I think there's a time and place for all of that. But it just came to my mind, so I was like, oh,
yeah, I hear Joe Rogan talk about it
Yeah.
and various prominent podcasters, but I haven't tried it, no.
Yeah, okay. Coming back to prison, going through the ego death, you're missing 5 years and 3 months, I keep putting that in there, of your children's life, right? And that would have had a very profound impact on them. And you mentioned to me off air that in a way you're still trying to play catch up in that area. How has that impacted the relationship with your kids now?
I don't think you can ever completely heal that damage. I think any father that's not present will never be able to fix that completely. So even if I didn't go to prison, the fact that I was a part-time dad was always going to have some effect on the kids. Didn't realize it so much at the time, but it certainly does. You know, I look at my son, he's 17, and I can see a lot of the traits in him that I could have played a much bigger part in being positive about, having a positive impact on, but I wasn't there. And so I can't change the past. I can only change the future. I communicate with them more. They are older, so it's a little, they don't come to my house every second weekend anymore because they've got their own lives, but we talk regularly, and it's certainly much better than it was when I first got out.
Yeah. Is it still a pain point for you?
I try not to carry guilt because I can't change it.
Yeah.
But, you can feel a little bad about it. Yeah. But that's a space I don't want to occupy anymore.
Yeah.
And so I said this to the mother of the kids. I'm not going to continuously say sorry for this because it's just this lingering guilt that it's not healthy.
Yeah.
I can't change the past. It's literally yesterday. It's been done. It's sealed off. There's nothing I can do to change it. No words, no actions, nothing. All I can do is think about tomorrow and the next day.
Yeah. Being the best dad that you can be now.
Correct.
For them. And if we were to go back, obviously 2 different chapters of your life. Now you have a son. How old is your son?
He's almost 2.
Almost 2. It goes quick, eh? Who's, if you were to describe the dad that you are now compared to the dad that you were in your previous relationships with your other kids, what's the difference?
Being present. I'm still ambitious. And I said before, I'm playing catch up with business. And so I have to be really careful with that because I can easily, not that I'm ever going to go and sell drugs again, that's never going to happen, but I can still easily get too focused on the material life and the success life and but just not be as present as I should be at home. So it's like a seesaw. Here I am trying to grow companies and be better, but I still need to be a great dad and a great partner. And so I start with a daily gratitude list. It's probably my best reminder if in my phone in notes. I literally, after the gym, I go for a walk down to the water. There's this bench I sit on. It's my gratitude seat. It's what I call it. I call it a gratitude walk. And I get my phone out. And in notes, I just add 3 or 4 things to that gratitude list. And if you were to go through that list, it's kind of endless. It's so much around the family.
Yeah.
It's never anything materialistic. It might just be the view in front of me. But it's very often got to do with the kids, with my partner. And so I use that as like a reminder, to go home, be more present. I also have a great partner. She is amazing. It was a preschool day the other day. I had a bunch of meetings booked, and she mentioned there was a Father's Day preschool event on, and I almost caught myself saying I was busy. And I stopped and went, I'll make it happen. And so I shifted the meetings and I went. It took like an hour. Yeah. How can you not find an hour? It was no big deal at all. And I really enjoyed it. We sat there, we coloured in. Maybe it was an hour and a half, but we coloured in and we ate some food. And he was wrapped.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I got home, I said to Lisa, thank you so much. She's not like she's nagging me to do it, but she's just, a little push.
Well, she understands that your mind's usually all over the place.
Yeah. And that's all it is just being aware, like everything in life. Sometimes you're just not aware. You're just so focused on something. Having the right person around you to just tap you on the shoulder and go, don't forget this.
Bring you back into alignment.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And you mentioned, that hour and a half at preschool and your son's wrapped.
Yeah.
They're the moments.
Until I left, he cried. But yeah.
But they're the moments our kids are going to remember. And, for us both growing up, we don't remember the toys and the shit that our parents bought us, right? It's the memories that we created with our parents. And I think it's so pivotal now in this day and age where we do have a lot of technology and you can buy really anything you want, yet coming back to the basics of just going and spending time with your kids. And that's a big thing for me, because I remember growing up and those memories for myself, and I never had the strongest relationship with my dad, but he always took me places.
Okay.
And that's the shit that I remember. Yeah. And I want to pass that down to my daughter. So we're always outside playing, colouring in, doing all these different things. And she's going to remember that. Like even this morning, we woke up and we're just dancing in the lounge room because she loves putting the music on. She loves dancing around. laughing, chasing around the house. And that's such a fulfilling way to start your morning.
Such a core moment that she's going to remember.
Exactly. And it's now actually become a habit. Like every morning she goes, Dad, can I put the music on so we can dance?
Nice.
And she loves to put on like this specific dress because it has like, it's like extra long. So it waves around when she spins around.
Nice.
And we just, it's so beautiful.
Well, it's good for you too.
Yeah, I love it. It's for me as a dad, and you know, having kids yourself, like it's so fulfilling, those moments.
When you see them happy,
I
mean, why do we do this as men? I think as a masculine man, your job is to protect and provide for your family and make them as happy as possible. So when you see them happy, that's making us happy. For me, it is anyway.
Yeah, no, it comes back to energy as well. And you want to have a household full of high vibration and that beautiful energy.
I mean, you mentioned before about you don't remember the items, which is true. And I think anyone that comes from a slightly poorer family where they don't get an abundance of things bought for them, there is an advantage to that. You know, I didn't grow up with an abundance of things bought for me, but we were always at the beach. We'd go for drives or like things that weren't super expensive. We'd go stay in caravan parks. I remember driving up the Blue Mountains to Bilpin because that's where they make the apple pies, and we'd buy an apple pie.
They're the best.
Yeah, we'd just drive up there randomly. Dad would just go, let's go for a drive. Or we'd drive to the beach. Now, we grew up in Penrith, so the beach isn't that close, but it'd be 2 PM. He's like, let's go to the beach.
We got Penrith Beach now, so it's all
True.
good.
I haven't been there yet. Let's kick a ball. Let's have a game of cricket. So there was a lot of that. And that is all I remember. I actually probably couldn't remember too many toys I was bought. And I know I was bought toys, but they're just not what you remember.
And I was actually journaling this morning around how would I want my daughter to speak about me to her friends or to people. And like things come up as like a man that actually showed up, especially with like what I'm going through personally right now. Me continuing to show up each and every day, even when there's been days where I didn't want to get out of bed because mentally I just wasn't there, but knowing that I had to show up for her and to keep the ball rolling. And as men, that we have to do that. We have to do the things that are necessary to keep the ball rolling. You know, a man that created a safe environment that she felt comfortable in and that she trusted me to come to her with her feelings and emotions.
Yeah. That's a big one because I shared with my daughter a story just a couple of weeks ago. As I said, she's nearly 22, and we're talking about doing things for the next 12 months and what's important and what's not. And I shared with her an analogy. It's a bucket, and you have a pile of big stones and you have a pile of small stones. The big stones represent the most important things in your life, and they represent the things that you enjoyed most. Like if you looked in the past year and you said, I really enjoyed this, I really enjoyed that, I want to do more of this stuff, less of this stuff. The big rocks are the things you want to do more of, the people you want to spend more time with, the holiday that you enjoyed, the hobby that you love. They're the big rocks. So you put them in the bucket first. And then you pour in the small rocks, which are all things that have to be done, but they don't light you up as much. And the small rocks fall around the big rocks and you fill the bucket up. Now, if you do it the other way around, where you don't plan for the things you really want to be involved in, you pour all the small rocks in first, which is life, general life, which is what most people do. The bucket gets pretty full and there's not enough room for the big rocks. It overflows.
Yes.
So you got to put the big rocks in first. So I shared this with Paige. She calls me up 2 weeks later and she said, Dad, I feel like a small rock in your bucket. I'm like, oh, why? And how this happened was we talk regularly, but she calls me all the time.
Yes.
And because she calls me all the time, I just got used to that. Like Paige will call, and she did, and she does. And so all it was just a slight tweak where she's like, I want you to call me. I said, I don't want to be the annoying dad. She said, I'd rather you be the annoying dad than me call you all the time. So now I've got in my diary to call her every day, and I'm sure I annoy the shit out of her. But that open dialogue, that communication allowed me to make a little shift that's obviously made a big difference to her.
Yeah. Wow, that's really pivotal. And I definitely agree. Like, you'd rather be the annoying dad.
Yeah. Apparently.
Yes. Yeah, wow. And I think another big thing too, what I wrote down is around holding that space for your kids, but also pushing them and challenging them to grow. I think that's very pivotal. I know it's not so much now with your youngest, but with your oldest, how do you challenge them and push them to grow?
Yeah, well, this overlaps with being a part-time dad.
Yeah.
Because I've missed that opportunity somewhat. And I'll share a story with you that I shared with my videographer just yesterday, because we took a journey out to the acreage that I grew up on. We knocked on the door. We're filming some stuff. We knocked on the door of the 5 acres I lived in, and I asked the guy, could I have a look around? I said, I used to live here when I was 10. And he said, yeah, sure. And we're walking down near the chicken cage, which is still the same chicken cage. And I had a flashback of a memory. I was mowing the lawns once, and I hit a water pipe, and there's water spraying everywhere. Dad's at work, and I might be 11 years old. There's water spraying everywhere, and I sort of panic, and I go inside, and I go, Mum, I've got to call Dad. Like, what do we do? I call him up, and he just says to me, you'll work it out. I'm like, fuck, all right. So I thought, I've seen him do this before. So I found the water main. I turned the water off, and I got a hacksaw, and I cut the copper pipe either side of the damage. I got some garden hose and 2 round clamps, and I reclamped it, turned the water back on. Everything was great. I share this story because he forced me to work it out. And I think too often as parents, we jump to fix things for our kids, and we don't let them free think. And it's important to let them free think. I know this now because even with people that work in my organization, I encourage them to fail. But when we're parents, because we love our kids so much, we try to stop them from failing, and that's the mistake. Let them fail. I failed. I broke the pipe, but I worked it out. And he didn't give me the answer. And so I use the same thing in business. We fail fast, we fail forward, we fail often, and it's okay if you fuck it up. So, back to your point about what's different about me as a dad now, I certainly am not jumping to solve things for my kids. I want to see them solve some problems for themselves.
Yeah, because the reality is, in your position in life now, you could solve a lot of problems for them if they came to you, like especially financially, all that sort of things. But it is pivotal that they do go out there and learn for themselves, but they can always lean on you if they need advice or guidance or anything like that. And I think you going through the journey that you have been, you're in a very good position to be able to give that to them.
Information, no money.
Yes.
No money. Money doesn't help them.
No. It's like you can give a homeless person money, but he's just going to spend it.
Spend it, correct.
So you'd rather teach him how to make money.
And build some resilience, because life doesn't always go how you want. You have to figure out how to deal with challenges and setbacks.
Yeah. And another thing that I wrote about this morning was around showing up as your authentic self, especially in the world that we live in now, and everyone's wearing masks. And me being a dad to a little girl, she brings out like that inner child in me, and I get to have fun and just run around. And I'm sure around your son too, saying like it brings out your inner child, and you get to have
Well, they
fun.
don't care.
Yeah.
You can be your absolute self, and they don't care, because they're not looking at what you're wearing, how our hair used to look, none of that. They just love you for the time you spend with them.
Exactly. So when it comes to your eldest two, how do you go around, I guess, teaching them around being your authentic self and not wearing masks? Yeah,
we have a lot of conversations, particularly I have had with both really, because the generation today, I sound like an old man saying that, but they are really conscious of what people think. And I think we all have been guilty of that. Even I've been guilty of that. It's not an overnight thing to stop worrying about what people think. But I try and encourage them to not get too involved in other people's thoughts, because it doesn't matter if you step forward, doesn't matter if you step back. If you step to the right or you step to the left, someone will judge you. And so if you're going to be judged anyway, you might as well be your authentic self and do what you want and what you think is right, because you're being judged regardless. You're not going to escape the judgment. I don't think telling people to stay away from social media is going to solve the problem. I think giving them the tools, the mental tools to deal with it is probably a better avenue.
I want to bring up something that's happened recently. I know you made a video of it as well, and I think it ties into this around being your authentic self and having integrity and speaking into things that you believe in. Obviously, everyone's heard the news of Charlie Kirk, and I want to talk about the impact that's going to have on the younger generation when it comes to speaking out about what they believe in because they see that stuff and they go, oh, if I speak out,
I get shot.
You're going to get shot. Something's going to happen to me.
And that's the saddest thing. And I said this in my post, whether you like Charlie or you don't like Charlie, you should be very pro speaking your truth, because everybody's had a thought today or yesterday or tomorrow that's not the same as somebody else's. And I don't want kids, I don't want anybody to be scared of saying what they think out of fear of being shot or cancelled, because that's a big thing as well. You can get a lot of hate on social media. So back to what I said before, preparing the kids with the tools to understand this is better than telling them to ignore it.
Yeah. And I guess instilling in them to have integrity.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've done many tests about frequency, which we talked about before, and the highest frequency is authenticity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, even myself, I got out of prison, and there was moments where I thought, do I want to hide that I've been to prison? Some people were saying, why don't you apply so you can have it removed from Google and all this stuff? And then I just went, you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm just going to lean into it. And I started sharing it. It was super uncomfortable. It doesn't bother me now, but for a while it was. I was sharing it at business events with a ankle bracelet on my leg. I'd slowly lift up the trackies and go, look, I've just got out of prison. But yeah, being authentic, I have no secrets now. So there's literally nothing that can be dug up on me that someone could share that would embarrass me, because I've said it all. Now, had I tried to hide it, I wouldn't be living my authentic self. And at some point, someone would have dug it up and said, he's been to prison.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel empowered by just leaning into it. And I've had a few messages even recently asking me exactly that. How did you go about navigating the stigma around having been to prison? And it's one of those things that the people that are super offended by it, sure, they'll troll you, that's fine, but they don't find you. They're not in your networks because you've repelled them. They care that much, they're not going to talk to you. The people that are around you, they've accepted it. In fact, they're inspired by it. Not because I went to prison, I'm going to make this clear because I don't want to make it cool and sexy to go to prison, but because of the changes I made afterwards.
Yeah.
So you can make those changes without going to prison. I was just a bit slow and I needed prison to get the message, but I hope that I share enough information with people that they don't have to go that low.
Yeah.
They can see the changes. Just make the changes. Don't go to prison first, please.
Yeah. And I love that you do embrace that, because it is your journey, right? And it is who's made it's made you into the man that you are today. And
I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. And we don't, as you said, you probably didn't see it at the time.
No, I didn't.
But looking back now, you're like, fuck, this is the biggest blessing that ever happened to me. And it's then puts you in a position of leading by example for your kids and for your family. And in terms of business, you're going to have a lot more respect because you are embracing that side of you. It's like, yeah, cool, it happened to me. These are the lessons. This is who I am now. You either love it or, in a way, fuck
that's
off.
right. Your people will find you.
Yeah.
Is there a ripple effect having been to prison and being open about it? Yes, I pay more for insurance. I was asked to do a TV show on Binge, and last minute they canned it because I'd been to prison. So there are some things that do get affected, but it's not enough to start lying about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you'd rather pay extra in insurance than
stay
in high.
I'm happy for the trade-off.
Yeah, exactly. And even when it comes to like the TV show, like you, in my opinion, you don't lose things that are not meant for you anyway.
Yeah, there'll be something else.
Yeah, it's not in alignment. But what is in alignment with you is your wife and her sticking by.
We're not married yet.
You're not married yet?
Soon
Okay.
to be. Yeah,
well,
it'll happen.
Lisa, the beautiful woman in your life who stuck by you through those years in prison. And I was saying to you off air, like, to find a good woman like that is, man, you got to cherish that. And it's
when you're
beautiful.
in prison, they lock you in. It varies a bit, but around 3:00 in the afternoon, let's say, and you'll hear so many guys screaming out shit about they've just got off the phone. They've been locked in and they're a mess because their wife of 20 years has run off with their neighbor, or, these things happen all the time. It's a big ask for anybody to wait while you're in prison. It's almost not even their fault. Well, it's not their fault. It's your fault. It's a big ask. Do you know what I mean? So when someone actually steps up and does that for you, you really have to, respect that.
Have you thought about why?
She does tell me, though, she wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her.
I was going to say that, but have you thought about why she stayed? Have you had that conversation?
I like to say it's my good looks, but I think my ambition, it's one of those things, right? Lisa's not materialistic. She's very family driven, but she likes that I'm ambitious.
Yep.
And maybe my ambition drew her to stick around. I don't actually know the pinpoint reason, because when we first met, she was young. She was 20 years old. And initially, and I had a bit of money, and you think, oh, she's here for money. Then you get caught for something like this, and your money disappears real fast, to the point where it was all gone. And whatever I had was seized by the Crimes Commission, all my assets. And here I am, dead broke at one point, and she's putting money in my jail account. And I'm like, fuck, well, she wasn't here for the money, because there is no money. And that was huge. I thought for sure when the money runs out, maybe and I shouldn't say this because it sounds horrible given how amazing she is now, but they're the things that cross your mind. And so I would never go to prison again to work out someone who's so good, but I did. And it highlighted how good she was. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, to answer your question, I don't know why she's still here. Hopefully, she sees something really good in me.
Obviously, she does.
Yeah.
And she sounds like an amazing woman and amazing mum to your child as well.
She does the lion's share. Absolutely. I mean, she makes it possible for me to be focused on business. And like I said before, she gives me the tap on the shoulder when I need to be more present, which is what I need.
Yes. And that's beautiful, man. And it's something that I aspire to have one day. As I said, I've had previous relationship, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. And when it comes to choosing the right woman, what's your piece of advice on that?
Find someone who's your cheerleader, because quite often in business, and when you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, right down to when you start making content, that's an uncomfortable space. I'm a confident person, but you put that camera in front of me and I was like, oh, no one would guess that by looking at my content.
Yeah.
But it was nerve-wracking. And you've got somebody at home that's like, you can do it, giving you that nudge, not, I don't want you doing that. Because if you're on the fence about something, a push either side could make a big difference. So you need that partner at home that's pushing you in the right direction. Now, Lisa's not, I won't say she's not ambitious. She's ambitious, but she's not business driven. She works for Westpac. She likes safety. She likes being on a payroll. The thought of owning businesses is completely out of her mind. She thinks I'm almost nuts because it's so stressful, up, down, there's no guarantees. We're polar opposites like that. But I think that works because our family unit, our home unit is really well balanced, and she is my biggest supporter. Absolutely.
Love that, bro. Talk to me about the stress of business and then coming back and being a present father. But at the same time, you would continue to do what you do because it's the business allows you that freedom to be that present father. And I think that's why a lot of us business owners do it.
We always set out with the intentions to own a business so we can have more freedom. And this is exactly what I coach. I coach in the Freedom Project, which is my coaching program. I help people buy back their freedom so they can live the best version of themselves. Now, what does the best version of yourself look like? That's different for each person. But what I don't teach is how you sit on the beach and do nothing, because I know, I've been there, that does not make you happy.
No.
But maybe you want to be a better father or a better mother. Maybe you want to be a better husband or a better wife. Maybe you want to start playing that instrument that you put down. Maybe there's a sport. I don't know what it is. But I'll give you this example. If you ever looked at the dashboard of a helicopter, it's got all these gauges. And let's assume that everything you want to be the 10 out of 10 version of yourself was all on these gauges. You might have finances, maybe it's a father, maybe they all represent something. And if each gauge had a measure out of 10, you might see there's a lot of deficits there. So you might be really good in some spaces, but really poor in other spaces. But here you are, you're trying to run a business. You're getting up early, you're trying to do everything you can to grow the business, and you feel overwhelmed because nothing's really moving the needle and you feel like you're stuck. And so I help people buy back their freedom so they have more time to do more of what they want, because quite often they're the bottleneck. They're working on $10 tasks in the business and not $10,000 decisions. So helping them get out of the weeds. And there's a strategy I use to get out of the weeds that's worked for me, and having people support you so that then you have time. And I start with this. I say to them, let's audit for the next 2 weeks. Every 15 minutes, set a timer and write down what you did for 2 weeks, solid. We then look at the audit and we say, all right, these are all the tasks that you're participating in now. What can we transfer to other people? So we transfer. Now you've got some time because you've got rid of some stuff. What do you want to do with that new time, that new freedom? You want to contribute to one of those gauges that I mentioned earlier that were a deficit. So you've got this time. Maybe you want to be a better father. Okay, you're going to fill that with spending more time with your kids. Maybe you want to be better with your finances. I'm not saying you have to have be a certified accountant, but you need to not make it a deficit. So maybe put some of that time into that. When you start doing this, your business grows as well because you've removed yourself as the bottleneck. We think that we want to be the answer to every problem solution in our business. That is a mistake. That's why most businesses never reach past a certain point. The ones that go past a certain point, they understand that they can't be the bottleneck and they learn how to work through people. You want team members that make decisions without your input. They just let you know what happened. It's a beautiful thing when you get to the office and they go, we just spoke to blah, 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 and we've done this deal and it's brought in this. You're like, great, I didn't do anything. They just let you know rather than, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And constantly coming to you for the answer. So removing yourself from the bottleneck, auditing your time, transferring some of that off, and creating space, freedom, time for you to be the best version of yourself. That is how you enjoy business and you stick to the goal of allowing it to live the life you want.
Yeah. Instead of working in the business, you get to work on the business and do the things that you actually enjoy.
Correct.
And that's what I'm doing with my business right now, is starting to delegate these tasks that I've sat with. I'm like, I've been wasting so much time, as you said, doing $10 tasks when I could be out there doing sales and marketing, which is like the main thing I want to focus on. It's going to bring in more money for the business. Instead of the $10 task, do the $10,000 task. But I think that all comes back to, at the end of the day, you need to have good leadership skills too, to be able to delegate those tasks so they do get done properly instead of just going back and forth with someone. How do you go about the leadership aspect in your businesses and being able to delegate those tasks?
Start with culture.
Yeah.
Mission, vision, values sounds like something you just put on the wall. I used to think that. I used to think I'd walk into a company and I'd see the mission and the vision on the wall and I'd think, who cares about that? I'll tell you who cares, your team. And the reason it's important, because we have these businesses, we have this concept in our mind of this thing we want to build. And we think that everybody around us knows exactly what that concept looks like, but they don't. It's in here. And so the best way to start forming a culture is to write down the mission and the vision clearly, not for your customer, but for your team, and then have a list of values. Now, if you have one of the values is to be polite or urgency, then you're not going to be rude calling your clients, and you're not going to call them in a week.
Yep.
And so these values, they create pretty much the blueprint for how people behave in your organization. That's a first step for leadership, because that gives everybody the same direction. Then allow people to make choices. I said this before, don't be the bottleneck. If they make the wrong choice, that's okay. Fail fast, fail forward, fail often, but we fail together. My team members know they can make decisions, and if it's wrong, I'm not going to fire them. If they made the same one 1,000 times, we'd probably have to have a conversation. But I want to encourage them to try things, because ultimately we think as owners we have all the answers, but we often don't. We're only going to try something anyway. Yeah. So why not someone else try? And so have an inclusive leadership where you're working through people. Don't be there's brackets, and I've seen this over and over. $0 to $300,000 is basically a solopreneur. They're trying to do too much themselves, if not everything themselves. Every time I talk to somebody in business that's like that, I say, what are you earning? And they go, 300K, 270K. It's so consistent. And I'm like, okay, I saw that coming. The next bracket is 300K to 3 mil. It's a bit of a big bracket, that one. But these people have learned how to delegate. They've got a team, but they're still high in their own importance. And so the team will come to them for everything. And I'd say there's a huge amount of businesses in this space. They've got staff, they've got a team, but they still have to answer every problem and every solution. They're a bottleneck. 3 mil to 30 mil. This is where it gets better. This is where the CEOs, the owners, have learned how to work through people. And so they are not the bottleneck anymore. They do things like I just spoke about. They allow the team to make choices and move forward. And the business grows around them. And they have removed themselves of being the problem.
Yeah, okay. And then it really, as I said, comes back to your leadership skills and your integration of, you have a set of values and a mission, but you got to live that yourself. And lead by example and set that standard and that culture within the business. So it's a big hats off to anyone that's running business, because you're the leader.
Get good at communication. I'm a dominant personality. So if you've ever done a DISC profile, which is dominant, influence, steady, and compliant, they're the 4 categories.
Yep.
I'm really high D. When you do the test, it's like a bunch of questions they ask you. I'm really, really high D. I'm high I. S doesn't exist. Probably why I went to prison. And C never used to exist, but post-prison, my compliance has lifted a little bit. No shock. But being a high D, you can be really guilty of telling people. You can be firm, but you have to. There's a great book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Carnegie, I think.
It's on my shelf somewhere.
Oh, is it okay? It's a great book for anyone that's struggling to communicate well with their team, because the time of being a dictator in your business is dead. It's gone. You're not going to grow like that, because people will only perform in front of you. As soon as you're not looking, they go, fuck that guy.
Yeah, and if you're being a leader, if you're setting the culture, people are going to want to work for you.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to put in the extra mile, because they feel like it's part of, like, they're essentially a part of it. They're not just a worker.
Correct.
They're not just doing it for money, even though, like, obviously we work for money. But if there's an incentive in terms of, okay, Chris is running this business and he set this awesome culture and I love being a part of it, they're going to turn up every day with a smile, and they're going to continue to put the best foot forward for you.
Well, our job as business owners is to create a container.
Yeah.
A space where the company can meet its goals, but the individuals can meet theirs as well. So if you're a part of the team and you say, look, I want to get married next year, I want to buy a house next year. Okay, how can we help you facilitate that? Within the goals and dreams of the business, how do we help you reach your goals as well? And if you do that with each of your team members, you'll be surprised just how invested they are. And, sometimes they can get offered more money, but they won't go because you're looking after them on a level that money can't really replace, basically.
Yeah, it shows you care and relationships. That's the biggest thing.
It was a big learning curve for me because, dictative sort of personality, criminal world before, really different. And so, I think I have a business partner now who I met at an event. I was maybe 3-4 weeks out of prison. Had trackies on. I had pants on, sorry, and I had the ankle bracelet on. We had to share our story. So he was a stranger sitting next to me. And I said, look, I've just got out of prison. And I shared a bit of the story. And he turned around and he said, look, you intimidate the fuck out of me, but do you want to do business? And we created a company called Certify You, which is sort of $1 million plus a year, or probably more, company in the RPL industry. So yeah, this guy has taught me so much. His people skills are fantastic.
Yeah, okay.
He's not a high D at all. We all have pros and cons about our personality, but he's is really good with people. So I've actually learned a lot from him. He's a lot younger than me, but you can learn so much from anybody.
Yeah, communication is the biggest skill that anyone can have. Like every day we're selling
communicating
ourselves.
Something, yeah.
Communicating, we're selling ourselves, whether that be in business, relationships, anything. Communication, it all comes down to that.
Correct.
How important is personal development to you? Like, I know you got your morning routine, which goes into that, but I've seen you spent over 150K when you're broke on personal development, and people are going to say that's fucking crazy, right? But how important is that to you, and what are some of the lessons that you've got out of investing so much money into it?
Well, you asked me earlier about knowing who I didn't want to be, but I still had a journey to figure out who I wanted to be, which I articulated earlier. But when I first got out of prison, I really didn't know exactly what that looked like. And so I had 140 grand left, thereabouts, from that whole scenario. And I spent almost all of it on a mentor. I rolled the dice. And it was a funny story because I saw an ad for buying businesses, no money down. And I thought, that sounds interesting. And so I had to speak to parole. I had to get permission to go because under my conditions, I could only go to work, gym, or something educational. So under the educational arm, they allowed me to go.
Yep.
So I go to this thing and I learned a bunch of stuff and I thought that was pretty cool. There was another one. So I got permission again and I went to that. At the end of this 4 days, they offer you a mentorship, which is 80K. Now, I just told you I had about 140K in the bank. And so I came back after a 4-day event and I said to Lisa, look, babe, I just spent the bulk of our money on a mentorship. And she said to me, that's nice, I'm pregnant. So that was
you better make this work.
Better make this work, correct. And I went on to make it work, but the mentorship was really valuable. So I imagine I will have a mentor for the rest of my life on some level. I have one now. I now work with Dan Martell. Yep. I find him really good. I also work with a company called JWX. So depending on what I'm trying to achieve at the time, I work with specific mentors. You know, why you don't have to work it out yourself. When someone's done it, they can give you great advice on how to do it. Reading books, because quite often these mentors, they've just read a lot of books and they articulate it well to you. So if you're someone on a budget, I would encourage you to read as much as possible because it's a really cheap entry level to get great information.
Yeah, books, podcasts, there's so much information out there. But I also want to ask you this in terms of, there's a lot of people that go into the personal development space and they just become personal development junkies, right?
Yeah.
They read all the books, all the podcasts,
Correct.
they go to all these seminars, events, they spend so much money. But the biggest thing is the integration piece.
Yeah.
How do we go about integrating?
There has to be a point where if you're constantly learning and you've not made any changes, you have to have a good look in the mirror real quick and stop learning more and just start implementing what you've already been taught. Because going to sit in the classroom, reading the book, listening to the podcast is just information. It does nothing for you if you don't take the action. And I see that all the time and time again. People think as soon as they click their credit card on that course that they've absorbed the information and they are now benefiting from it. But it's not the case. You have to study the information and you have to implement the information. So how do you stop that from happening? You've really got to just have a good conversation with yourself about being accountable. Set daily non-negotiables. I have daily non-negotiables and they keep me on track with the small things. You know, and everyone's might be different, but for me, I have to do 45 minutes in the gym. It's an overlap of business and personal. 45 in the gym. I have to read at least 10 pages of a non-fiction book. I have to reach out to 5 people on social media. I have to post 3 times. If I missed one, what was the 5th one? It's another social. It's post more on social media. Yeah.
And on that, like, I think the biggest thing is like,
read my goals 3 times.
Read your goals 3 times, yes. A lot of people have these crazy morning routines, right? And they spend their morning with this whole list of 20 things they have to do. And by the time they've done it, they're zapped and they don't actually go on and do the actual work that's going to bring in the money. So how can people go about, having a morning routine, but that it actually sets them up for going and doing the work that day?
It's all about what energizes you. For me, boxing energizes me. So quite often in the morning, I box. But you've got to do it early. If you're a family man, you can't do it late.
No.
Because you're overlapping with the whole family getting ready. So I'm up at 4:44 to do that. 4:44, up, box or cardio of some sort. Gratitude walk, home, ice bath. Although I've been a bit slack with the ice bath of recent. But ice bath, breakfast, coffee, hit the road. That energizes me. I enjoy it. I love it. I don't know what that is for everybody else. You can have too much, you can have too little. But that's the time to do it if you want to be present with the family and run a business, get up early.
And also work-life integration too. I think that's a big thing.
So I like the word integration because balance is a myth. Sometimes we have seasons. You know, I'm building out this coaching program and I had to say to Lisa for the next 6 weeks, I'm going to be in the office on camera filming my modules. And we're like, okay, this is a season. I had to do that. And we just discuss it first and then it happens. But then we try not to make it a permanent thing.
Yeah. As we start to wrap up, if there's a young guy out there who's feeling a bit lost right now, he doesn't know what direction he wants to go in. He may have grown up in Western Sydney and he's surrounded by the things that we were both surrounded by. What's a piece of advice that you would love to give him?
Start with the end in mind. Just ask yourself to dream a little bit and picture what your perfect life looks like. Write it down and then go and learn a skill that you can trade to somebody for money and start there. But just have that vision of that life you want in your mind. I'll quickly wrap up with this. I did a session with Bob Proctor many years ago and he got us to get out a bit of cardboard and we had to draw our ideal life. And That session went for a few days. It was great. I drew this building, which was meant to be a house. And in the driveway, there was 2 Harleys, and there was a sports car, and there was on the water. That went in the drawer. Something like 15 years later, I'm going through my stuff. I pull this vision board out, and I'm like, fuck. I walk out the front, and it looked exactly like the unit block I lived in. I lived on the Sydney Harbour. I had 2 Harleys in the driveway, and I had a sports car. Now, it could be coincidence, but I think visualizing and having the end in mind. Now, you be careful with the detail, because that was meant to be a house, but I was in a unit, so it wasn't quite perfect. But visualize where you want to go. If you're starting out and you're just a bit lost, just dream. Dream about something you think's not even possible. Think about it, write it down, and remind yourself of it as much as possible. But to get there, dreaming's not enough. Go and learn a skill. Learn a skill, get really good at it, and then find people that have money that like that skill, and they will trade your time for money. You start off trading time for money. Then you start trading money for time. When you get really good, you start bringing in team members. And then when you get really good, you start trading money for money. They're the 3 categories.
Yeah. And with that big end goal, that big vision, what's your opinions on putting it out there into the universe, as in like telling people, or should we keep it to ourselves?
I think tell. I mean, I hear that all the time. Don't tell people. Don't tell people. It's not for them. It's for you. I mean, ask yourself this. If you said next week I'm going to do an ice bath every day for 7 days, if you told yourself only, would you do it?
Depends.
There's a chance you might not.
Yeah.
Now let's replace that. You've gone on your podcast and told everybody that listens that you're going to do an ice bath every day for 7 days. Would you do it?
It's accountability. Yeah.
You're going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because when you mentioned the big end goal there, a big thing for me is like I want to buy land up the coast on the beach, and I always envision, my wife, kids, and just that fulfilling, loving home. Like that's what I'm driving towards now. As it's about putting in the work, building what I need to build to be able to achieve that.
Well, I want you to build a vision board, and not, you can do the one I just talked about where you draw it, but I actually want you to get a whiteboard somewhere, wherever you want.
Yep.
Put a line down the middle. On the left, I want you to write all the things you want to achieve. Now, this is the next part which most people miss. On the right, as you achieve them, I want you to move them from the left to the right, because you forget how far you've come. You've probably done a lot in the last 5 years that you've just taken for granted. But if you've got it on a board, you can see that the right column starts to grow. And occasionally you look at this list and you're like, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Because if not, you just get focused on all the things you don't have.
Yeah.
So as you achieve them, move them to the right and be really proud of that list as it grows.
And because then you have a visual thing.
Yeah,
you see it every day.
There's progress. That's happening.
And then once you see that progress, it makes you want to work harder and keep achieving things. So, all right, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's an easy one.
Man, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Happy
and
to be here.
For the listeners that want to find out more about you, follow your page, maybe do some coaching, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, visit my Instagram, chris.allchin, Allchin, or you can go to my website, chrisallchin.com. I'd love to have a conversation. If anyone's stuck in their business, stuck in the weeds, and they want to buy back their freedom to either grow their business or just get more time to spend with their family, I can definitely help.
Awesome. Chris, you're a legend. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thanks, Nick.